Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond the Home Study podcast. This is where we have real conversations for foster and adoptive parents. So, Laura Rose, what are we doing today?
Well, you guys, today we are doing another one of our re-releases. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But this one's really, really special. So we did this a couple weeks ago. We did a re-release, and then on like some tips for traveling, and then we did an episode with staying home. Well, this time we are re-releasing an interview, and not only is it an interview, it's our very first interview. You gonna tell them about it, Abby?
Yeah, so this was the very first guest that we brought onto the podcast. We actually didn't even have video or anything. We were like set up. Emily was actually at my house. So this is Emily Burns. She's an adoptive mom through Embryo adoption. She was actually at my house visiting. We had like these two chairs set up. We had the laptop up on like books. We had a microphone in between us. Like
The
it was
audio quality is terrible, guys.
which is so funny that it's our number one episode too. It's like number one stream downloaded the whole deal. So yeah, it's a fun one though. It's like one that we look back on and we're like, oh, look at how far we've come.
Look how far we've come. It's also a super, super interesting topic, you guys. So embryo adoption in this episode, Emily's going to tell you all about it. Her experience. She has two children through embryo adoption, so she's going to tell you all about how that works and what were some of the ethical dilemmas and like all the things. It's a really, really interesting episode.
Yeah, this was a fun one for me too because it's Emily was one of the first people that I knew that did embryo adoption before Josh and I walked that path, and that's how we have our son, Judah, is through embryo adoption. So, yeah, she was just like kind of a trailblazer for me with this, and I always learn something new from her whenever I talk to her.
Okay, guys. Well, special treat for you next week, right? The
Mhm.
next week, whatever, the next episode, we are re interviewing Emily. So we're going to have some extra things for you guys. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this one and stay tuned for the next one.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Home Study. Laura and I have something special in store for you today. We actually have our first guest, Emily Burns.
Whoop,
Emily,
whoop.
welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's also extra special, guys, because Emily's in person with Abby. So instead of doing like a recorded one like we usually do, or like virtual, she's like actually there. It's kind of weird. I'm like, wow, there's two people in one picture. That's
I know. I wish
bizarre.
you were with us in person, Laura. That would make it even better.
One day.
One day. One day we'll rent out a studio and have guests and video and all kinds of things. It'll be so fun.
Is that the same day that we're also going to buy a Derby suite and invite all of our podcast guests?
Absolutely. Yes, that's what we're doing.
Okay, great.
We're gonna put it on our like our dream board that doesn't exist right now that we'll make one day.
We should absolutely make a vision board or something.
Yes, let's do it. That's so fun.
All right, well, why don't we just start with like the regular basics? So like, Emily, who are you and who's in your crew?
Okay, so my name is Emily. My husband's name is Chris, and we have been married for this June will be 10 years. We live in Louisville, Kentucky, where I met both Abby and Laura. And we have a 6-year-old named Ellis and a 3-year-old named Addie.
They're 6 and 3 already. Like,
Yeah.
time flies. That's
I know.
crazy.
I know Ellis is finishing up his first year of kindergarten. So he goes to full-time kindergarten, and next year he'll be in first grade.
That's insane.
It's so insane.
Wow.
I mean, I vividly remember walking into the hospital, coming into the NICU, and meeting Ellis.
I remember that exact moment.
Yep.
Because Becca came with you.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember where I was standing when you walked in the NICU.
I know.
Because Ellis was glowing under his Billy Rubin light.
I know. He was so tiny. And that I've thought about that
I
experience.
think you're
a
the
lot.
first person to see Ellis.
Really?
Yeah, like the first friend.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Oh, that's special.
know that.
No, I'm pretty sure
That's so sweet.
Yeah, because he was actually only in that room
Mhm.
for a couple, maybe like a week before they moved him to a different room. And I believe you're the only friend
That came.
that saw him in that room. Yeah.
Wow. That's so wild. I really have thought about that experience so many times though, because walking into the NICU to meet our girls, I thought like,
Deja vu.
yeah, like I wonder if it's gonna be like this. Like I mean, that was the only NICU experience I ever had before my own.
That's
Kind of
crazy.
wild.
Well, Emily's had quite a bit of NICU experience, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about not only your own kids and caring for your own kids in the NICU, but
Yeah.
others.
So there's this thing called the nurse curse, specific to NICU nurses. That we all have the nurse curse, and it's basically where like all of our babies end up in the NICU.
Whoa.
So yeah, so I was a NICU nurse in a level 4 NICU. And my first baby, Ellis, he was born at 32 weeks because of preeclampsia. And he was in the NICU for almost exactly 5 weeks. And then my daughter, Addie, she was born at 34 weeks and also for like complications with blood pressure and growth restriction and all the fun things. So then she was born later than Ellis, but she was actually way smaller and was in the NICU for 7 weeks.
Dang, you got all the NICU
I was
experience on
trying
both
to get
ends.
away from the NICU. Yeah.
And so for those of you out there listening that, you don't know Emily, you don't know her story, we're going to hear that today, but she's talking about her kids being in the NICU, but that's because Emily was pregnant, but her children are adopted through embryo adoption. So can you just give us your like super quick, like elevator pitch, like what the heck is embryo adoption?
I was dying laughing at your question of did I Google embryos for sale? Because like honestly, kind of. Like that's honestly not too far off. Yeah, so embryo adoption is where couples who go through IVF and they have remaining embryos that are in storage, they can donate those remaining embryos to a couple um, who want to adopt them. And there's many different routes that they can do that. There's anonymous, there's private, there's all kinds of things that we can talk about later. But um, essentially, we adopted our children as embryos and we were able to transfer them, which is very similar to the IVF process, but instead of using our embryos, we used embryos that were adopted. And yeah, both of my children were adopted as embryos. They're biological siblings, so they're genetically related, but I was able to carry both of them even though they were adopted. So it's a very unique and amazing opportunity that I had to both adopt a child and carry my adopted child. It's the only form of adoption that you can experience kind of both of those things. So,
And they're siblings, like biological siblings. Like that's cool too.
Yeah. But they're not twins,
yeah.
right? Do you get that question? Are they
Yeah,
twins?
and I often get asked, what was I gonna say? It was something to do with, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. You threw me off.
Sorry. Yeah, we were talking about twins earlier, and if you were to transfer two genetically related embryos at the same time, would they
Yeah.
be twins? And like what constitutes a twin?
It's usually people who don't understand how twins work.
Right.
So, oh, I know what I was gonna say. Um, one thing that I love about them, can you hear that trash truck?
I absolutely can hear that trash truck.
I feel that. Or the bus.
It's like it was like a high pitched squeak.
I think it's Sounded like that in person too.
But I'll mark
Oh,
it.
no, it's pressure.
Why would there be a bus in your cul-de-sac?
There's buses that will come down.
Oh, okay, that should be better.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I love about our kids, is that when somebody has multiple children, they never know what they're going to look like, right? So like some kids look like their dad and then some kids look like their mom, and you would never know that they're siblings, right? But then there's other siblings who you're like, oh, they're definitely siblings. Well, like with embryo adoption is no different than having two children naturally. So like we didn't know if they would look anything alike.
Mm-hmm.
So they're so squeaky.
I know.
There's some baby squeaks. Yeah. So like whenever we were pregnant with Ellis, we obviously had no clue what he would look like. We knew his, that he was a Caucasian child, and we knew minimal characteristic traits about the donor family, but obviously we don't know what he's going to look like. Well, then with Addie, we didn't know if she was going to look like Ellis or if she was going to look completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's really special that they actually look very similar to each other. I mean, they obviously have a little differences here and there, but they you would never like question, like I feel like they look a lot alike,
Oh, they totally look a lot alike.
which I think is extra fun because it's like embryo adoption is already so like unheard of and just like different,
Mm-hmm.
that like the fact that they look alike I think is really fun. That we got two embryos that look, I'm like, I wonder if they all, like maybe their genes like run really strong, like their specific,
Yeah.
like their noses and like their feet
Mm-hmm.
and like their build, like they're built
Yeah.
exactly the same. Like I wonder if their genetic siblings look just like them.
So this is kind of fun because Abby, obviously you know a lot about embryo adoption, but I really don't know that much. I know like the basics. So when you like the donor family, like I know when you do like private adoption, like you know a lot more about the families. I guess you could, depends on it. So with donor families, like do you know, oh, like mom had brown hair, dad had blonde, or do you only know like there's no history of XYZ, or like there's a family history of diabetes? Like what kind of information do you get?
So when people ask me that, I would say like you almost know more information because it's a much more like streamlined process. So like the when you go through like foster care or adoption, like most, unless you're going through like a very like private and where an agency is like they require this information from a birth mom. That's not always the case. In most cases, it's probably the total opposite. Like this mother comes in and she wants to give her baby up for adoption, and like she has no reason to give all this information and to answer all these questions. And she doesn't have to, especially if they're going into like the foster care system. Um, but with embryo adoption, it's a very like strict intake process.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have to fill out like pages, and at least through the agency that we went through, they have to answer a lot of questions. So there's like a form. I mean, I don't know how the donation process is, but I know the adoption process, we were able to gather quite a bit of information about our kids and their group of embryos. So we were able to see like eye color, basically all physical characteristics we knew without seeing an actual picture. So we knew eye color, height, weight, straight hair, curly hair, that kind of stuff. And then we also got medical history. But the unique thing about our kids is that the medical history is super dated because my son was frozen as an embryo for 19 years.
Whoa.
And my daughter was frozen for 22 years. So the information that is given by these by the donors is like 20 years old. So like anything that would have shown up with their biological children we wouldn't know about it, basically. Like their
Okay.
children were still young when they filled out this paperwork.
Okay, so what makes a donor family want to donate their embryos? Like you're done, like they're, they did IVF, they're done. Like why would I go through this process at all? Why wouldn't they just like, I don't know. I don't know what the alternatives are, but
Be frozen for eternity.
Yeah.
but do
Yeah.
you have to pay for that? Like do the IVF families have to pay for that storage?
Yeah. So I think there's two reasons. Well, I think ultimately families who have a conviction about whether or not an embryo is considered a life worth sustaining, whether that means like in perpetuity being frozen or the alternative being destroying these embryos. And there's many different views on that, but the families who donate them happen to be families who do see these embryos as as potential life, and so they value what happens to them, and they want to give them a chance at least of becoming a child through adoption. So you know these families kind of selflessly, I can't imagine donating your children. I don't, it's a hard way to like phrase it, but ultimately they're choosing that their embryos lives are more important to them than the comfortability of knowing that someone else is going to then carry their children.
Yeah.
So they've kind of
Man, that's such a
given
good
that.
point because you have to think about that in that way. It's not just like you're donating them, like okay, like go ahead, like whatever, I'm done.
Like it ends with someone
Ah,
else transferring them and carrying them, and that becoming someone else's child.
So
crazy.
is your relationship with your donor family, is it open at all? Like, do you have any contact, communication
Hmm.
with any of the, I guess, donor family? And there's also other families who have adopted embryos from this genetic
Hmm.
group.
Yeah, so we actually went the anonymous route.
Mhm.
So with the agency we went through, it could be anonymous or open adoption, and that's very similar to if you were to do like private infant adoption. So some of these families have chosen to do an open adoption with their embryos, and we've had friends who have done that, and that can look a different amount of ways, but we chose the anonymous route. So when we looked through the profiles of groups of embryos, we only looked through groups that were already like signed away. So we were not, it wasn't a mutual matching. It was just this family had already signed them away saying, we don't want, this is where we stop. Like we're going to
Okay.
donate them with good faith that they will hopefully be adopted and used, but we don't want to know if they're adopted. We don't want to know, if any children are born from them. So that
Were
was
you
our experience.
were you given the information of like this family has I'm like making up a number 20 embryos and you're like, "Oh, we only want to adopt 4."
Yeah.
And then like can you say like is there
Can I
anything there
talk
that you
a
could
little
tell?
bit about, I think one thing that's really people find, like people ask, like, what do you look for? Would that be helpful?
Yeah,
To talk about?
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so whenever we chose to do the embryo adoption, we knew that we wanted to have enough embryos from the same genetic donors that we could have siblings. We didn't know how many that would look like. We didn't know what my pregnancies would look like. But we knew that we wanted enough embryos that we could thaw the embryos, transfer the embryos, and carry the embryos. There's multiple different things that these embryos have to survive to become a child. So we wanted enough embryos that would be possible for at least 2 genetic children. So we went with a larger group of embryos. But they also have people who will adopt a group of only 2 embryos, but then they have a backup donor group as well. So that if they thaw both of those, or if they transfer both of those and they're not successful, they'll then go to their backup
Okay.
group.
So you worked primarily with the NEDC, so the National Embryo Donation Center, in Knoxville, right?
Yep.
And so as you're going through and thinking about, okay, how many embryos are we looking at? This is what our desire is there someone who is like coaching you and helping you make some of those decisions, or did that come from research you had done? Like, kind of walk us through what that beginning part of the process looked like for you.
So I don't think we really had anybody internal who was helping us think through much of that. They could answer questions. I mean, yeah, there wasn't anybody internal in the NEDC who was specifically answering our questions about them, but we kind of, basically what we did was we sat there and we were like, at that point I was like, I don't know how old I was, 7 maybe. I'm a 27-year-old choosing who my children are going to be. Like, who on earth can carry that kind of weight? Like, I have 150 groups of donor embryos, and it is up to me in the Lord's sovereignty to make this decision. And you're like, how can I ever, one, choose what is best for me based off of a profile? And 2, when you say, it's really hard to say no to embryos that you know are there too. So basically the process that we did, which was super helpful, and this is something that I tell every single family who has reached out to us about embryo adoption, you have to like just start somewhere. So what we did is we had a notebook out. We wrote down our non-negotiables were race, how many embryos were available in a group, and the maternal age of the donor mother at the time of the IVF. So we wanted someone, a specific age, like health, because initially you don't see medical history. Initially, you only see theoretically the first page of the profile. Okay. Then when you narrow it down, then you get the rest of it. So we went
Quite
through
the process.
I think we went through over 150 profiles, and we were able to say, like, we wrote down the ones that had enough embryos, had X, Y, and Z. And then from there, we were able to request 5 profiles at a time for the rest of the information. Have I ever told you how the NEDC does this?
I do feel like I've heard that you had to request a certain number, but I don't know if I knew you had to sort through the 150.
5, maybe it was 3, but it's a weird feeling. Like, I remember the very first time we requested a profile. It was a group of like 15 embryos, and the mother had passed away, and the father donated the embryos. And I just felt this like heavy weight of like, I think me and Chris were like, yes, we just felt like the reason he was donating them was very honorable to do. Because, he probably made that decision on his own. But when we requested the profile, they had already been adopted. So we were happy that they were already adopted. We were like, dang it, we missed them. So then, we request like 3 or 5 at a time. And then from there, we went through the medical history. And that is where we narrowed it down, basically. So,
You
and
know, it's not, that sounds kind of similar to like with foster care when you get like placements, because it's really hard to say no when they call you and they're like, tell you this sob story. And you're like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, yes. But you
And
have to
that's just
have
an
like,
immediate need for a physical child who's already in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's probably even harder because they have already been given this life and they can feel pain and neglect, and like embryos can't feel those things. So then I
but
think
still, like, you have to set up boundaries, like, to your point. Like, you have to be like, no, like, I want to say yes to all the children, but I can't take a 15-year-old. My husband's 20.
you're like, I married a child, okay?
I know. All right. Okay, he wasn't 20 for those of you listening, but he wasn't that much older. So we were like, no.
It's hilarious.
That's so great. Oh, I love it.
I don't know. Okay, let's take us back a little bit. Like, when you are thinking about this, like, what made you even consider this?
Okay, so the way that I found out about embryo adoption was a very like in passing comment. Basically, our pastor was preaching a sermon. Chris and I were both at the same church, but we did not even know each other. I was dating someone else. I came to Emmanuel, and I'm like sitting through this sermon on Sanctity of Life Sunday, and our pastor just gives this quick little like about embryo adoption. And I'm like, I literally have no, but he called them snowflakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also called snowflake adoption because they're frozen. They're little snowflakes. Um, but he just had mentioned it. Why are you looking at me like that? Is it because of who I was dating?
No, it wasn't because of who you're dating. I'm just thinking back about so on a past episode we talked about Orphan Sunday. We never even talked about Sanctity of Life Sunday. But like the way that adoption
Affects
has
multiple.
comes to someone in whatever way it might be. And I think that it's cool, and it's also funny how different churches handle some of these, like it's like the different Sundays, and like what are we talking about? Where are we focused? And is it meant for everyone? Like that kind of idea we've talked about on the podcast before. So I think I'm just thinking back about like we'll talk offline about other things that came up through some of those sermons that we had, like Josh and I had wrestled through. Yeah. And then I've talked to about, with other people. It's just a very impacting day. And obviously,
well, and the fact
knowing
that
your
he
story,
chose to speak, to even mention
yeah,
snowflake
yeah,
adoption or snowflake babies. I mean, that planted a seed in my mind because I wasn't married. I was in nursing school full time. I was 21 years old. Like, I had no reason to know what that was.
Yep.
And nor did I ever think that I would be pursuing that. So then for that little, like, the Lord used that tiny 5-second blurb to then like shape my entire
Future.
journey of becoming a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and the fact that my husband heard the same thing, like I wasn't the one like bringing the initial idea to Chris. He had heard it the same time I heard it.
Wow.
But that was like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So circling back around, I don't even know what the question was now. Was it, how did we find out about it?
Well, just like what led you down that path. So, like, you got married. Did you just immediately, you're like, I just feel so called? Which is a reference back to last week's podcast. I just feel so called to adopt. Or were you like, I want to do embryo adoption? Did you guys have infertility? Like, what led you then to like pursue it?
Yeah. Okay. So the funniest thing is, thinking back, I was dating someone, and I remember saying to them, I do not feel called to adopt a child. I will not adopt a child. I have no reason to adopt a child. I have not felt even an ounce of desire to adopt a child. That's, some people are like, I can't wait to it. Like, I would love to adopt. That was never me. even though everyone around me, I knew plenty of people who had adopted, I supported adoption. I love adoption. I was not going to be that person. I was not going to go down that path. And I remember saying that to this person. I remember where I was sitting when I said that 15 years ago. And then I'm just like laughing at myself because the Lord was like, not only are you going to adopt, but you're going to adopt in the most unheard of way, where nobody has said, oh yeah, we can walk alongside you at that. We got this. We've done that before. No, he's like, you're going to adopt in the most unconventional way possible. So yeah, so we did go through a couple of years of infertility, and that is what led us to embryo adoption.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wild. I love hearing people's stories of like what they said they would never do.
I know.
Or what they said they would for sure do.
Mhm.
And then that's just not the way that life goes. So,
Yeah.
okay, so then like as you think back on how this all came to be, I am curious. I know you talked a little bit about the NEDC, but how did you decide on an agency, or did you know someone who had embryos to donate privately, or how did you kind of come to that? I know we joked about Googling,
Yeah.
are there embryos for sale out there somewhere, but take us back to that.
So
On the black market.
Facebook Marketplace embryos.
Oh my God.
I mean, I do buy a lot off Marketplace, so it would not be that weird of a thing for me.
I've got a high quality Yeti cooler that's got these embryos.
It's hilarious. That is so funny. They've been frozen in my Stanley Cup for 20 years.
Well, then they've got to be legit.
Yeah, no, they're for sure. I trust a Stanley for sure. Yeah, they haven't like fallen out and refrozen like at all. Yeah. So right around the time that we were kind of at like a stopping point for fertility treatments, my mom actually had a friend who had gone through IVF. She was an older mother, and she had a large amount of embryos, but only had ever planned to use one of them.
Wow.
And I remember, like, at the peak of our infertility and at the peak of our pain, I heard of all these extra embryos that never had a plan to be used. And I think that was like really hard for me to hear. We weren't looking into embryo adoption at that time, but that definitely like sped up our thought process. So right around that time is when I started Googling. I think I just Googled embryo adoption cost because I was interested in seeing the cost difference between IVF, embryo adoption, and regular adoption. And yeah, essentially I Googled embryo adoption, and the agency that we went through is what came up first. And I think it is the largest and longest standing agency, and it is like a Christian-based organization. And so essentially that's who we ended up going through because there wasn't a lot of options. It was there or a place out in Washington State. And so we ended up going through the NEDC, which was in Knoxville. But yeah, we didn't have a lot of options because at that point, again, we didn't know anyone who had done embryo adoption. Our fertility clinic was obviously not encouraging anything like that. They were wanting us to do IVF to create more embryos. And we knew that wasn't really something that we felt comfortable with. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of options. So finding the actual place to go through wasn't difficult.
So were you guys kind of like at a standstill? And you can, if you don't want to talk about this, that's totally fine. But were you kind of like, we've been going through some infertility and we've done, maybe some things, and now the choice is either IVF adoption or this embryo adoption? Is that kind of like where you guys were?
That's exactly where we were. So we knew basically our next step in our infertility journey would have been IVF. And so we basically just had to say, like, this is not something that we want to do personally. And so that took that off the table. So then we had spoke with someone who works very closely with like an adoption agency. And we were basically like, tell us flat out how hard it's going to be to adopt an infant. And when they were kind of pushing the foster care side of it, and we were not emotionally stable or prepared to go through that journey, as we were already like kind of in the valley of infertility. So that's when we were like, okay, we could literally adopt these embryos that need adopted, and I can have a pregnancy, which was always a desire. So it was literally the best of both worlds. I cannot even like fully explain like the perfect like combination that is, like, after going through infertility, is being able to adopt and carry a baby. It's incredible.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
but then I also know people who already have biological children. They want to adopt embryos because there's a need, and they're choosing to sacrifice their body, because they could just go adopt another child, but they're choosing to sacrifice their body that isn't even going through infertility. They could have another biological child, but they're choosing to go through the injections and the ultrasounds and the painful embryo transfer and all this blood work to adopt an embryo. So
And you still have, is it still the same, like success rate of transfer for as IVF?
Yeah, it's the exact same process. There's not like a thing where your body like rejects this embryo because it's someone else's. So yeah, it's a pretty like straightforward process.
I actually don't know the answer to this question. Were your embryos, when you adopted your embryos, were they genetically tested
No,
at all beforehand?
none of ours were tested.
And I wonder if it's the age of the embryos.
Ooh, I do have something interesting about this. So a lot of people don't know this, and I only know this because of going through the process. I don't even know, you probably know this, but embryos are now frozen at a different stage than they were 20 years ago. So that is another thing. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
When we were looking through our embryo profiles, we actually had a PowerPoint presentation that we had to watch that explained what stage different embryos are frozen at.
Yeah.
Because people who are choosing a backup profile, you can't mix and match embryos that were frozen at different times. So like that's a whole nother thing you have to learn about.
Wait, what do you mean? Like you can't have two different embryos from two different parents if they were frozen at a different time?
Correct. And transfer them at the same time. So with our embryos, they were frozen as a single cell embryo. So one single cell. They were frozen on day 1. So they fertilized them, boom, frozen. They did not follow along with them for a couple of days to make sure that they were multiplying properly or anything like that back then.
You guys got lucky then, because isn't that like there's more complications that can happen?
So that is one thing. So they were frozen as single cell embryos. All of ours were. So then this episode's going to be like 3 hours long. I have so much. Maybe I should start an embryo adoption podcast.
Do it.
You should.
This is the soft launch.
I could go on for days. There's so much. And Abby knows a lot of this too. But with our embryos being frozen at day 1, they don't transfer embryos until they are at day 5.
Right.
Which is what a blastocyst.
Blastocyst.
Yes. So there's a single cell, then there's a multi-cell, which is 3 days, and then there's a blastocyst embryo. And that happens in the womb too.
Yeah.
There's a blastocyst phase when someone naturally conceives. So because ours were frozen at day 1, they had to be thawed and watched under a microscope for 5 days before they could say this is a healthy enough embryo to transfer. So not only were we waiting to see if they survived thawing. We had to wait to see if they survived that 5-day growth period. And then we had to see if they could survive transferring. So just because you have these embryos, and it's the same for people who go through IVF, just because you have these embryos doesn't mean any of them will become a child or survive transferring. So it has to survive thawing, the 5-day multiplying, the transfer, get to the transfer phase, and then it has to implant. So like there's a lot. And we did realize what phase they were frozen at. They weren't worried about what phase they were frozen at, but we did not understand how long they would have to progress until our transfer. So another crazy fun fact, which you can cut this out if you have to, but I think it's fascinating. It is so fascinating. Everyone needs to know this. It's the coolest thing ever. Embryos that were frozen at day 1, they can be thawed and refrozen as day 5 embryos.
Yeah.
So we actually did that. They thawed out more embryos than I don't know how many maybe 1 extra. They weren't like thawing out like all of our embryos.
Yeah.
I think they thawed, it's so weird saying thaw, like a frozen chicken wing or something.
It is like
They
that.
thawed out our chicken thighs. Think of it as chicken
Do they
thighs.
run it? Do they just run it under some hot water? That's what I do, and I forget to
with these embryos. So they thawed them all from day 1 to day 5, but then 3 survived the thawing, and we only wanted to transfer 2. So they were able to refreeze one of the embryos.
Was that one Addie?
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, interesting.
It could have been because so that was with Ellis that we transferred 2. With Addie, we actually only transferred 1 because I was already going to be high risk pregnancy. I couldn't do twins on top of that. So we only transferred 1. They thawed 2. How does that work? Because we also had to sign something that said if they thaw 2 embryos and we only want to transfer 1, if that leftover embryo is not healthy enough to be refrozen, you have to transfer it. They will not just discard it.
Wait, if it's healthy enough.
It has
Like
to
if
be.
it's not healthy, then they'll discard it, right?
No. If it's not healthy, they'll transfer it because they have to give it a chance. Because even an unhealthy embryo, it's not genetically unhealthy.
Right.
It's just visually,
It can't be refrozen.
it's visually unhealthy under a microscope. If that
Okay,
makes
but like, does that mean it has more chances that
No.
like that child could have a disability?
No. It doesn't
Okay.
mean that, as far as I know. But so yeah, that's a fun fact. Embryos can be thawed and refrozen, unlike ground beef.
Right? Unlike ground beef.
It's so wild. There's so much with all of this that is like, I think it freaks people out because it's so scientific and it's like there's just so many details to all of it. So do you find that?
I think that's what people find overwhelming.
Yes, that's what I was just gonna ask. Like when people are asking you these questions, are you able to like, because I think you do a good job of breaking it down and saying like, here's how to simplify it. But do you find that some people are just so overwhelmed? They're like, I just can't even consider it.
I think the people who are already considering it are willing to learn about it.
That's good.
And since we have gone so public with it, so we did like basically we did a public service announcement video because I'm an extrovert, but I also knew there was a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
Because we had to announce our infertility, we had to announce adoption, and then we also had to explain what it was. And I didn't want to do all those separately. I wanted to do all those in one go. So we recorded a video and it went through everything. It went through what we'd gone through. It went through what embryo adoption was. It went through everything so that we did not have to explain it to everyone. I would just send them the video And
That's smart.
it was so smart. I'm so proud of myself for thinking of that because even with that video, it's still like, so the video had like over 100,000 views on Facebook because we made that specific video public so that people could share it, because we were also able to use the video as a platform to tell other people about embryo adoption.
Yeah.
So it was like a fourfold whammy video. Like, and I'm so glad we did it. It also, we have had hundreds, like when I am not exaggerating, I have had over 100 couples reach out to me from all over the country. They have like a friend of a friend of a friend either commented on the video or shared the video. And that is the only way they would have ever heard about embryo adoption, is from our video. So then they have questions for me. And I know of at least probably 15 couples who have done embryo adoption since us doing it.
Wow.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. And I've had like a front row seat into helping them navigate that, because I've made myself like available for that, because
You should have turned that into like a nonprofit or something.
I know, no kidding.
I think that was like the launch of your podcast way back then. You
Yeah,
should build on
maybe
it.
that can be like my intro video.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I also think like the Lord knew that I was an extroverted person and that I'd be a good person as like an advocate for these embryos.
Yeah.
So I'm just going full speed ahead with that.
So with all these people that reach out, is there like one or two like specific things you could think of where people have had just like an off the wall like question, or like, or this, maybe you get the same question all the time. You're like, oh my gosh, I wish just people understood this.
People are like, do I have to do shots?
Really?
And I'm like, yes. So if you're afraid of needles, you better toughen up.
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up.
Says the nurse that's like totally unfazed.
Yeah.
Says the nurse who had to come over to my house to teach my husband how to give me shots.
I've given so many women shots because they know that I'll come over to do it.
I know.
Yeah.
And you would give yourself your shot.
I only ever gave myself all the shots. So, yeah.
I cannot imagine.
I used to give myself allergy injections.
Oh, yeah. The needle probably wasn't quite as big.
Oh, I'm sure that it was not as big. That is in no way to compare.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like the thought of putting a needle in your body, like, I mean, this was once a month. You guys had to do it what, like daily?
I had to
Weekly?
do 3 times a
3
day.
times a day.
I was 3
Times a day?
Yeah, and the needle is like 1.5 inches long. But the reason I had to do 3 times a day is because 2 of my injections were for the hormone, but then I also got diagnosed with like a clotting disorder just by happenstance. I've never had a blood clot. It was just like I was a high risk pregnancy and they ran a random lab and it came back abnormal. But so I had to be on Lovenox. I had to be on a blood thinner as well. So it was a fun time.
Do you want to share it all about, you've talked about high risk pregnancy a couple of times. Like, what was that something that you had anticipated at all when you thought, like, oh, I want to be pregnant, I want to do embryo adoption? Did you anticipate the complications that you would have?
No. So I anticipated the infertility. That was something that we knew going into marriage, that could be a possibility. I did not anticipate having so many complications during pregnancy, specifically my blood pressure. So my blood pressure was like stroke level high most of my pregnancy with Ellis. I was maxed out on the max dose of blood pressure meds by 28 weeks. Yeah. So I didn't anticipate that. So with Ellis's, I wasn't hospitalized. Definitely should have been, but I wasn't. So he was an emergency C-section. I was very sick. With Addie, it was a known risk, and they were following me so closely that they were able to actually keep me from going into preeclampsia. But the like risks were still there.
It's like a garage door opening or something.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. So with Addie, I did not have preeclampsia. I just had all the adverse. Yeah, she was still high risk.
Yeah.
I was still hospitalized for 7 weeks, and she was still born early.
Wow.
So fun times.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun
Don't
times, right?
recommend. Do not recommend.
Yeah.
Do you want to, Abby, do you want to do some of these wrap up questions? We'll try to like,
Let's do it.
whichever you feel. Or if
Um,
there's anything, Emily, is there anything in particular that you're like, wait, I really want to make sure I mention this?
No, I think you have enough. I think you have enough content for about 3 podcasts. So
yeah.
you could do part 1 and part 2.
No, we're actually like right at our like normal time, so you're good.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Perfect.
Okay, so tell us about something just in your parenting of your kids right now that's bringing you joy.
Well, Ellis is definitely becoming a lot more independent. And I thrive I'm thriving in the older kid phase. I struggled immensely with postpartum stuff, and so to be out of that is definitely bringing me joy. Oh, also, we have no more diapers in our house, and this is not new news. Addie potty trained herself at 2 years old,
That's amazing.
and we have not. She doesn't even wear a pull-up at night. Like, she is like dry. She doesn't have accidents, hardly ever. She's night and day different than potty training a boy, but that is amazing.
Wow.
We have no diapers, no any of that anymore, which is incredible. No more bottles or anything like that in our future. But yeah,
I love when parents mention how much they love the older kid phase because I feel like there's this like idea that you have to love the baby phase and you have to love having these young children. And I think truthfully, more moms than not are like, oh my gosh, they can play by themselves for 20 minutes. This is glorious.
I have been thriving on like the 3-year-old and 6-year-old moments, watching them like fly down the road on a scooter and like learn how to read and do Legos and kind of like coming into their own a lot more. Like, I'm not deciding for them what they want to do anymore. Like, they decide for themselves. So like Addie's doing gymnastics and Ellis does Cub Scouts, and
So cute.
I know, and like they have their things now.
Wow.
So
That's really cool. That's really sweet.
yeah. it's
Okay,
sweet.
so we are going to end all of our interviews this way since we've done this so many times already. So complete this sentence. I adopted because.
Desired to be a mom.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty much Abby's too when she said it.
Yeah. I know, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to Emily's story. I know I did. I know Emily, but it doesn't mean I did not know the answer to most of those questions. So it's been really just great talking to you and finding out more about embryo adoption. I'm so excited about just the way that you've used your platform because yeah, all it takes is that one little seed. So hopefully someone's listening now and they're like, oh man, like I didn't know about embryo adoption and I would love to know more. Is there a place where they could reach you? Like, could we drop your info at the bottom?
Yeah. I can definitely drop like my email.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also maybe we can put the NEDC link as well, because that also has a facts page where they also go through a lot of this and answer a lot of questions as well. So
Awesome. And you might be starting a nonprofit soon. So if she does, we will.
a podcast, a nonprofit, an adoption agency.
Yeah, all of it.
A daycare. I don't know. Anything can
A
happen.
daycare. We'll just add it to the bottom of this episode. Yeah. Abby, you got anything?
No, I think that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story and thanks for sitting in my house.
I know, I'm literally
babies.
I left my 2 kids to come get 2 more kids, and I love it so much. Now the real
All right.
test
Well,
if she'll stay up all night with the girls tonight.
a true friend would.
That's right. I know.
Will
That's
guilt you into it. All right. Well, it's been great, and we will see you guys next time.
all right. Thank you.